Hi, I'm Umaymah Rashid. Welcome to LA Currents. Today we're here with the lovely Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, psychology expert, community activist, and president of the NAACP chapter out of Council District 15. Welcome, Dr. Bryant.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and specifically how you came to be president of the NAACP chapter?
I'm in private practice as a doctor, life coach. I own the Dr. Bryant Institute, where we focus on personal and professional development by offering online courses. We train different companies that are in the mental health, psychology, or the life coaching sector. We also do different unity and anti-racism trainings for different school districts, companies, and etc. And as far as NAACP, you know, I was already doing a lot of community work prior to becoming not only a member, but being able to have the privilege of being the president of our branch. And, you know, just even from being a child in adolescence and junior high school and high school, I was always the one who was for the underdog. I was the one who would fight for the rights of the abled students that were in my school. It's to make sure that they got treated fairly. And I never lived in dogma. I didn't have a problem with individuals thinking that, you know, what was wrong with me or maybe why was I so passionate about that. It was always something that was very close to my heart. And so as I transitioned from adolescence into adulthood, that fight didn't silence. It got louder and it became more important and it became more stronger for me. Obviously, as a double minority, being a woman, I should say triple minority, being a woman, being African American, and also having Latina in me. And so, you know, my fight continued. And when I met my VP, and who's also the founder of our NAACP, Joe Gatlin, he said, look, you know, you'd be amazing in this position. You already do this work. But you'd be able to do this work that you're already passionate about with a whole team. You know, the saying is, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, you go as a team. And I told Joe, I said, let me sleep on it because this is a big responsibility. And one thing about myself, I don't commit to something that I can't give my all to. My all meaning not just my heart, but my time and my dedication. And so I said, Joe, let's rock and roll. And from that day forward, it's been, you know, boots to the ground. And it has been an honor to be able to serve our branch, to serve not only our Black community, but to serve our people in our community as a whole.
And I know we talked a lot about your work with the NAACP, but I know that your passion is around, you know, the work you do in psychology and around mental health. So can you talk about how the mental health work that you do contributes to the work that you do with the NAACP in that heart space?
Absolutely. So, you know, as far as the mental health piece, I was doing that obviously before I became president of NAACP, and that allowed me to be privy into the psychological, I should say, you know, disparities and concerns and issues of African American males, African American people. Let me go a little further, the behavior of human beings in general. And so what that did was that gave me an even more compassionate heart. And what understanding does is, again, it gives you empathy because now you understand. And when you understand something, it eliminates or demises your judgment towards that something. And it allowed me to be more of a vessel, more of service, and to understand that as I'm helping some of the things that I don't yet understand come through me being of service. That's where that understanding does come in. If I don't understand, then psychologically have the balance of just being of service, not for the sake of understanding, but for the sake of being of service and helping that other person get to where they need to be, which our goal is a better quality of life. And my goal as Dr. Bryant Institute is a better quality of life. Just a quick example, I don't know if you recall the Palos Verdes School District incident that our NAACP had to go up and address. Well, Palos Verdes School District now has, because of our branch, now has to implement a unity and anti-racism training to all of their staff within the entire district because of our branch, because of this ongoing racism that they have been having and that they have failed to address. Now every year they have to implement that training. And that dealing with that incident allowed me to have compassion for that principal at Palos Verdes High School. It allowed me to have a deeper understanding of his psychological space of where he may have been. And the unique piece about that is that compassion part and that understanding part. I talked about how it demises your judgment. When I walked into his office, because of I was able to have that balance of my training in the field of psychology and demising my judgment, I looked behind him, and now, mind you, he's a Caucasian principal, tall, big, corn-fed looking guy. Nothing about him looks very minority-ish or, African-American blended. And I look back and I see these 2 or 3 beautiful mixed black kids. And I say, excuse me, sidebar, are those your babies? He goes, yeah. Wow. I said, wow, you have a black family. You got black kids. He goes, yeah. So I say that to say that you never know psychologically where somebody stands until you have that conversation. And I always say every issue, every concern is just a conversation away from the resolution.
Yeah.
And so that's how I am able to blend it. And I do use a lot of my tools when I'm dealing with our men in regard to like our spongement program, our reentry program that we're attempting to create. So it definitely helps, and sometimes my tools do carry over in the community work that I do.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about your mental health work specific to African American men and African American women, and what do you see as some of the resounding issues that we as a community need to kind of focus on when it comes to mental health?
First and foremost, I am a very spiritual woman, and I believe in God. Obviously, I mentioned, God a few times in our conversation. But as African American community, we have to understand that, faith without works is dead. Mm-hmm. The faith part is a prayer. That's awesome. But then the work part is going to see a therapist and seeking out that help, or going to see your life coach. Church, again, for our community has been the foundation of where we go for our problems, where we go for our prayer, where we go for our empowerment. But that seems to no longer be our go-to as a community. Now our go-to is pretty much to isolation, and isolation is a sickness. Isolation breeds depression. And so we have to be able to get to a space of really educating our Black community on the importance of mental health, 1. 2, we have to have, it's imperative that we have culture competent therapists and life coaches. Lastly, at the schools, we need to have psychologists that look like me, that look like you, that look like little Erica, little Johnny, whatever that means, because again, they are treating a culture and a race that they're not competent on, and not all, there are some very competent non-minority therapists and coaches and psychologists, but for the most part, in order for our kids to trust a therapist and a psychologist enough to open up so that they can be effectively treated, they have to know that you understand them and that there's not a judgment, and that your job as a therapist is not to project your values on them to say, hey, do it this way because this is my norm. Is to say, let me understand your way at which doing it, because maybe that's working for you, but we just got to tweak it a little bit, and then you can keep it.
Yeah.
We don't want to strip them of their identity, because that's another thing that our Black community, especially our Black men, are suffering, is identity crisis. No one looks like them. No one's telling them it's okay to be you, but maybe let's shift some things. You don't have to rip away your whole identity. Just shift it a little bit. And allow people to be their authentic self, because that's what the true liberation is. And through liberation, we get peace. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Again, to the understanding. And not only is Dr. Bryant that does work in psychology and president of the NAACP chapter, but she also has a book called Mental Detox and a success workshop that is happening later this year. If you want to learn more about the work that Dr. Bryant does, you can visit her website at drbryant.co. You can also find her on Instagram at _Dr. Bryant. And if you want to learn more about your NAACP chapter, you can visit naacp.org/find-local-unit. I want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for all the information you shared, all the understanding that you shared, all the empathy you shared, and just thank you for the work that you're doing in our community. It's much appreciated, and we appreciate you for coming. Thank you.
And thank you for using your platform for things that are much important like this and needed. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. This is LA Currents, and I'm Umaymah Rashid. We'll see you next time.